This episode of Pomcast is sponsored by Yak. Yak is the hub of the knitting and crocheting community in Brighton in the UK. Run by a team of passionate makers, Yak strives to provide their customers with the highest quality tools and yarns.
They champion independent companies from the UK and abroad, chosen responsibly for their unique and luxurious qualities. Whether you're after an eye-catching hand-dyed yarn, I often am, a traditional Shetland wool, or a stylish Scandi thread, they have something for everyone.
The Yak team values transparency, and they know that their customers do too. Wherever possible, their website includes extra bits of information on yarn, such as the provenance of the fibres, the locations of the manufacture, how the yarn is spun, and whether it has been superwash treated or not. All very helpful. And all of this will help you make informed decisions based on what is important to you.
That's so important if you're shopping online, just to have that little detail, and they're knitters, so they know what you want to know. If you live in the East Sussex area or happen to be visiting Brighton, you can also check out their knitting and crochet workshops. They have classes suitable for all levels, designed to inspire seasoned and new knitters alike.
So our friends at Yak are offering 10% off for Pomcast listeners. That's you! Until the 16th of December. Just visit their website, yarnandknitting.com, and enter the code YAKPOMCAST. That's YAKPOMCAST at checkout. Gift cards, sale items, and classes are not included, but everything else is. So thank you, Yak.
Thanks, Yak. And if you didn't get it already, Yak is a very clever acronym of yarn and knitting, so an easy one to remember there when you're heading to the website.
Hello! And welcome to Pomcast, the podcast brought to you by Pom Pom Quarterly. I'm Lydia Gluck, and I'm here, as I am every other week these days, with the wonderful Sophie Heathscott. Hi, Sophie.
Hi, good morning. Well, it's morning where we are.
Yes, it is indeed. So good morning to you, and good morning / afternoon / evening to all of the Pomcats.
Good knitting is the greeting we should use.
Indeed, good knitting to you all.
Good knitting, and that is the theme of this podcast, good crafting, good knitting, as we chat what we've been up to, what's been happening in Pom, what's exciting, any other tidbits that we thought would delight your ears, and here it is.
Yeah, so here we are. So Soph, what is happening? You seemed very excited that you had a little story that I was going to enjoy.
Well, I think it's an exciting story. You know, when people are like, oh, I had this dream and then this happened, and it's like, But my story is intrigue and mystery and admin and Google searching.
Ooh.
I mean, has that whet your appetite already?
It's got everything I want from a mystery.
I told my sister this, and she's like, this sort of encapsulates so many aspects of your personality, so buckle up for the ride. So I've been working on a tapestry kit, you know, like a counted tapestry thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I might have mentioned it, and I definitely mentioned it in a podcast maybe this time last year. And I'm using a big hoop, you know, embroidery hoop. And it's not really working for me. I think needed like a frame. So, you know, you can get like standing frames that you can like lock it in, like stitch it in, and then it's like a giant surface where you can work on. And I think that was really appealing to me, because then you'd be like hands-free, so you can have one hand behind the fabric, one hand above, and that needle is like going through. So I ended up finding something on eBay. I don't know if you've come across that site before.
I think I'm vaguely familiar. In fact, I'm banned from eBay, but that's not because I did anything in particular. Just one day I got an email that said, you're now banned from eBay, and I have not been able to go there since, and it's sad.
You know, actually, okay, this is another story. I got that, and I I emailed them straight away saying, like, why? And they were like, oh, I'm sorry, it was just a mistake.
Because I emailed them saying why, because I I hadn't used eBay for such a long time that it was attached to like an old email address that I didn't use anymore. So I was like, I'll just make a new account attached to my new email address. And then it immediately got banned for some reason. And I emailed being like, but I've never even like bought anything on here. And they were like, you're banned. And I was like, but what if I want to buy things on eBay? And they were like, you can't. And that was it. It was really dramatic. Anyway, so I have heard of eBay, yes.
Oh, good, good. Well, I'm on eBay and I find a tapestry frame for a reasonable price. I bid on it, and I have the sweet win of winning this tapestry frame. It arrives, it's giant. You know, thankfully it's flat pat, but this giant cylinder shaped thing arrives. And I start putting it together, and I realize there's a bit missing. And I hasten to add, this is no fault of the seller. I wasn't purposely missold. And I ended up messaging them saying, am I misunderstanding, or is this part missing? And they're like, you're right. I'm sorry. Like, I got this from my mum ages ago, and now it's like sat in my house for ages. Like, even if I had the missing piece, I don't know where it is. And possibly it never existed. But I think the maker is still around. I've just Googled them. You could try and get in touch with the person who made the tapestry frame, because there was a little sticker on it which said, and we're actually, for the purposes of, I don't know, privacy, let's say it's ABC tapestry frames.
I love it.
I gave them a quick Google and they seemed to be right. And I was like, okay, leave it with me. I'm going to do a bit of investigating. And I did. And I called the place and they said, oh no, we're not here. That tapestry maker isn't anymore, because it's a handmade like wooden frame. I ended up Googling the phone number, and the number that is this getting interesting or boring yet?
No, I'm into it.
The number was coming up for a industrial estate in this place in North Yorkshire. And I was like, that's obviously where this person had the studio. But the address on this little sticker that was on the frame actually was a farm in somewhere else. So I Googled the farm and I spoke to them and I said, do you or did you have someone who used to make tapestry frames here? And they were like, oh, yeah. But like 10 years ago, we don't sell them anymore. But they still live in this town in North Yorkshire. I was like, interesting. Could you like put me in touch with them? Are you comfortable with giving me those details? And they're like, oh no, I don't have details for them. I was like, can you tell me their name? And they're like, oh yeah, it's ABC. They're like Arthur Bramley Crumble. And I was like,
Delicious.
interesting. That's a very unusual name. So then, this is also interesting, like view into people's privacy online. But then I thought, what did I call him? Arthur Brambury Cumble is a very unique name. I wonder if they still live in that town. I can Google that name with this person's town and find them. And you know what? They now have Arthur Brambury Cumble electricians. So now they're electrician. So Here we go. I've narrowed it down to a potential lead. And I call him and I say, is that Mr. Crumble? He said, yes. I was like, did you used to make tapestry frames? And he says, yes. So I found the person who makes them. He doesn't make them anymore, but we had a long chat about me saying, I found this tapestry frame. And I had a bit of a mystery finding you. And basically, he's going to have a look in his garage to see if he still has the missing piece. Which, this story is to be continued. But that was such an exciting morning trying to narrow down this person and find this missing piece for this.
Oh my god, that's
item.
so great.
So that's literally been one of the highlights, trying to find this person and finding them.
Arthur Branbury Crumble.
Yeah.
That is so great. This is like, I feel that this could be an ongoing saga, possibly akin to the Doodle story for anyone who listens to Adam Buxton's podcast for the past 4 or 5 years or something. Joe's been coming on and telling tiny increments of I feel like your story is more interesting than the Doodle story.
I should have maybe eked that story out and be like, and then I called the farm.
And find out more next week. Well, I, for one, am excited about whether or not Mr. Crumble can find the spare part in his garage.
Yes. To be continued. Anyway, what's happening with you?
Well, as previously mentioned on the podcast, I have moved house. Or like I was, decorating my house. And I have now finally moved in.
Hooray!
So I moved all my things. Thank you very much. Moved them, or the majority of them, into the house last week. So I am still, in a kind of varying levels of chaos in the house with like boxes everywhere and, various bits of furniture still to buy and some bits of furniture that I owned that don't fit. So I'm spending a lot of time on Facebook Marketplace. Speaking of eBay.
I was going to say, yeah.
On the old bargain hunt, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, because I've been doing that so much of that, I've had much less time for regular old crafting than I would like. But it's my mission to get everything kind of set up here to the point that I can get back to making things from wool and fabric again, which would be very exciting.
I feel like as much as your process of moving house, you're saying, I don't have enough time for making, but you're really sort of part of a creative process is setting up your house as well. I think you should celebrate that a little bit too.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it is, yeah, it's like just a different kind of creative process, isn't it? All the like deciding about colors and then like deciding where bits of furniture should go and like how. I feel like there's something quite fun about like, you're like, okay, what would be the most sensible location for me to keep these specific items? And sometimes you can't really tell that until you've lived somewhere for a while. You
Hmm.
just don't really know how you're going to use the space. You have to have a kind of like interim organization where you're like, I'm just going to put these things here for now because they need to go somewhere. But through me living here, it will become clear to me like the optimum location for the kettle.
Definitely. Yeah, I love moving things around. I sometimes my husband has to talk me down from that, and there was points in lockdown where I was like, right, today we're just moving around the living room, and
That's our activity for today. There's a Handsome Family song, a band, the Handsome Family, who did the theme tune for True Detective. That would be like the main place that people might know them. They're kind of like a modern country band. They're really good. Anyway, they have a song called Moving Furniture Around. Like the lyrics are just, sometimes when I feel crappy, I just like move my furniture around.
it's good. It's good. It's good energy booster. I think if people are on board with it, then yeah, move some furniture around.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's been my ongoing project. And again, watch this space. Where's the kettle going to end up? Anything could happen. Will it be on the left or the right? I don't know. Maybe I'll make a little map and post it somewhere, and it'll be like the doodle story and the crumble story, and everyone will be in suspense.
Yep, that's the life we lead, and that's the content we're bringing to you guys. Get ready.
It's like pretty. I mean, this is some pretty solid gold content. I think
Yeah,
everyone can agree.
yeah, yeah. Not that our lives aren't fascinating, but what's also happening in Pom Pom Magazine, Lydia?
Yes, exactly. Pom Pom is the if our content, personal content, is gold, then Pom Pom is platinum.
Yes.
Well, we mentioned previously that, of course, we've got some exciting festive bundles on the website, which are very much worth checking out, whether or not you are engaging in a gifting season. They are nice things for a personal gift to oneself, perhaps. But in addition to those items, we have lots of exciting announcements for 2022 Pom Pom projects.
Gosh, even though it's like, what, less than 2 months away? I'm like, oh, 2022,
I
that's
know.
quite a novel number, isn't
That
it?
really snuck up on us.
Yeah. Yeah, so next year you might have seen some announcements on our newsletter or Instagram. Next year, 2 books coming out along with the usual quarterly offerings. One of them is Minipom.
I know, I'm so excited about Minipom. And it's a book about tiny pom poms.
Finally. I mean, I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah, I know. I'm now like, ooh, what would I do with lots of tiny pom poms?
Minipom will be tiny patterns, tiny pom pom patterns, but not patterns of pom poms, patterns of pom pom, right?
Yes, the patterns of pom pom, but smaller for smaller people.
Yeah. So some classic designs, some new designs, all for the small baby people in your life, known as babies and children, I guess.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I feel like the joy of mini versions of things is universal. I don't know, maybe that's not true. But I just love tiny versions of things, and it's really exciting and satisfying to see like pom pom patterns that I really love in mini versions.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's definitely something that's been in the back of our minds for a while. I know people have mentioned it to us as well. So it's exciting that this is coming together in the background right now for next year. Stay tuned for more information of the how, why, and when. You know the why, but
Yeah, so that's one very exciting thing that we're working towards. And then the other one is sock book.
sock book. Yes, you like socks? We've got them.
Love socks.
Well, we will soon. So we're very pleased to be working with Rachel Coopey, who is a fantastic sock designer. Has been in many a Pom issue as well, so you'll know her.
Yeah, she is a long-term pom pom pal, and as you say, sock designer extraordinaire. And we're really excited to be collaborating with her on this book, which will be a kind of sock version of Ready Set Raglan, I think the overall feeling is. So yeah, watch this space for that as well. And we all know, I mean, I feel like I'm always talking about making socks because it's like a real constant of my knitting life. Got to have background socks.
Gotta have background socks. And if you are not a sock knitter, this could be the book to introduce you to the world of socks, guide you through by the hand or by the foot, maybe, to make some socks.
A foot in the door, if you will. I feel like you made that joke previously, but I'm just.
We were talking about, I was trying to find models, and we're like, oh, we're going to have some of the Pomp staff modelling the socks. And I was like, it's a real foot in the door for that modelling career. I can't wait. But yes, more news on that. We thought we'd give you guys a heads up about these exciting projects for next year. And speaking of next year, of course, there'll be issue 40, which will be our spring issue for 2022. I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable saying 2022 now. It's sort of
starting to get a bit
next
more.
Year.
Yeah. It's rolling off the tongue a little more easily. We've seen the photography. That's the photo shoot happened in Austin with Megan at the helm for issue 40 for spring 2022. And I have to say, the photography is looking incredible. The patterns are so beautiful. The theme is kind of dreamy, ethereal knits, and there's lots of gorgeous mohair and pastels. And I'm just so excited for to see the whole issue come together and to eventually be able to put it out in the world. It's looking real good.
Yeah, definitely. We did have a little sneak peek in our newsletter. If you're not signed up to that, then we recommend that for weekly Pom news. We'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can always be up to date on what's happening in Pom. So as we're thinking of 2022, let's think about the last episode of this year. We're going to do something new for this episode. We're going to do an Ask Us Anything episode.
And it pretty much does what it says on the tin, I feel, the Ask Us Anything. You can send us questions about anything. Yeah.
And when we say anything, that is, so again, although it's like the clue is in the title, I'm going to ask you more about this. Could I ask anyone on the team a question, Lydia?
You could. Nay, should.
Could I ask anything that's not Pom related?
I don't know. Can you ask anything that's not?
Yeah, sure. Thank goodness I asked you.
Yes, you can ask anything non-Pom related.
So yes, we want you to send in your questions. So that's either to me and Lydia and me, Lydia and I, or the rest of the Pom team. Perhaps you want to know how the tech editing process happens, or do you want to know more about the behind the scenes photography? Do you want to know about what it is to get a pattern published, like the process behind that? Are you thinking about the inner workings of Pom?
Or what snacks are the most important snacks in the Pom Pom office?
Right. Yeah, you see, Lydia, I might want to ask you, what's been your biggest influence in your life?
Whoa.
And you're going to have to think about that. Or I might ask you, what's on the menu this evening for dinner?
So I feel like it's just any kind of little query or curiosity that crosses your mind that you think, I would like to ask Pom Pom people about that, then we would love to hear from you through all of the regular channels, I believe. You can always email your questions in, podcast@pompommag.com. We'll probably do some kind of Instagram story collection of questions. So if you are on the gram, then you can keep an eye on our stories. You can maybe even pop them in the Ravelry forum.
Yep, definitely. And we are going to dedicate the last episode of the year to these answers. So we'll also hopefully have other members of the team answering some questions, which will be fun. And we look forward to bringing that to you. So send us your questions. So to end this episode, we would like to talk about what's exciting. Lydia, what's exciting for you right now?
Well, I feel a little bit like this is too basic, or I just feel like everyone is talking about Succession, but maybe that's just everyone that I talk to, because I just talk about Succession, and so people who don't want to talk about that have stopped talking to me.
I mean, I feel like everyone I know is talking about Succession, but I haven't watched it, so...
Sophie! But yeah, and it's weird because I normally watch like kind of comedy, like not always sort of just light kind of silly things, but my usual things to watch would be something like The American Office, which is like a very, very good TV show. But like I like to be, I like to laugh. I don't know about you, but I like laughing.
I love
An
laughing.
unusual opinion, I know, but
I think humor is
yeah, I think we need more of it. So Succession's a bit of a weird one for me because it's all like, kind of. I mean, I suppose I should explain what it is because although I think everybody knows what it is, maybe not everyone does. It's a HBO TV show about a very wealthy sort of media mogul family, kind of loosely based on the Murdochs, but I think that is quite loose. And there's the kind of patriarch of the family who's been at the helm of this media empire, and his children are all vying to be, next in line, hence the name Succession. But it's very like sort of slow and like moody, and it is very funny in a kind of dark comedy way, but also all the characters are just incredibly unlikable people.
I was going to say, what was the reason I want to watch this? It's not funny. And you're like, all the people, you're going to hate them.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because you kind of think like, if you don't want to be friends with a character, that you wouldn't want to watch them, but that's not really true. Like they're still really compelling, and you do kind of like them, or like you kind of, you're not like rooting for them because you like don't, people just like shouldn't be that rich and ridiculous, but you kind of, you end up sort of feeling sorry for them sometimes, maybe, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. But anyway, it's just like brilliantly written, and like I've just become very, very invested in it and have been listening to lots of kind of podcasts about it. There's a really good HBO actually made a podcast where they were interviewing all of the actors individually about their kind of approach to acting and the way that they approach their character for the show. And I've just got very, gone right down the rabbit hole of theories about, what's going to happen next, and like underlying tension between characters that people are reading into. So that's my that's my media consumption at the moment. But I also recently finished reading a book that I enjoyed very, very much. So I thought I would mention that, and it's called Lila by Marilynne Robinson. And I've not read anything by Marilynne Robinson before, but I gather that she is an extremely well-known author. I would very much recommend this book. It wasn't very long. It's like quite manageable in terms of time commitment. But I found it to be extremely moving and very, very beautifully written. So if anyone's looking for a nice read, I would say that's a good one.
Nice. You know what? We're talking about funny telly programs, and I feel like, well, this last couple of weeks, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a bit of a weird one for me. But you know what I have loved watching, and I don't know if you watch it, is What We Do in the Shadows, but the telly program.
I knew, I was like, Sophie's going to say What We Do in the Shadows. And yes, I love that show so much. And then, because there's the new series, right, that I haven't watched all of it yet, but it came out sort of.
Such a joy. So for people who don't know that, I mean, Lydia's already given it a strong like noise of approval. So originally it is a film that was released in 2014, directed by Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement, who was one of the Flight the Conchords duo, and a documentary style film about a bunch of vampires living together. And this television program is a different bunch of vampires living together and their hilarious life.
It's very, very enjoyably silly, isn't it? Like it's got like that real like British comedy silliness. And I realized that the two people who wrote the original film, they're both from New Zealand, right?
Yes, actually they are. So it's written, so the television series is also the same people who did the film, so there is a great continuity. And one thing I'm particularly enjoying, with no spoilers, there is a real enjoyable arc to the stories that come through. So this isn't a criticism, but sometimes in series you'll get stuff that happens, like a character will come in and be like, okay, and then they never speak to them again, or like something will happen, and then maybe I'm watching Gilmore Girls a lot right now, and Emily's talking about going to Paris in the spring, but actually they always go to Paris in the fall. Anything, things, continuities like that, where I'm like, that's not right. And What We Do in the Shadows, there was great attention to detail on pulling back little nods to things that happened in past series. And for me, that makes it ever so more satisfying and leads to a greater depth of jokes.
It's just, yeah, I find it to be like, it just always cheers me up, even though it's about vampires. It's quite slapstick, isn't it, in a way?
Yeah, and I suppose it's quite minimal on gore. Like I think the film does have its fair share of gore, but this is sort of low spook and gore, even though it is a little bit rude. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for someone who can't watch any horror, it's a good level for
Right,
me.
yeah, it's accessible. Entry level horror.
Entry level horror, yeah. Again, like we're talking about the Addams Family, yeah, about there,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good shout. I would second that as a good watchable item.
Yes, definitely. So that's all from us for this episode. But don't forget, we want to hear from you for the last episode. That's our Ask Us Anything episode. So get in touch via email, podcast@pompommag.com, Ravelry, or via Instagram, or I don't know, send us a carrier pigeon. I'm sure these kind of things work in the modern age to find us. And we can't wait to see what you guys think. You can always get in touch anyway via all these methods, but yes.
Yes, we always love to hear from you, and specifically would love to hear from you, as Sophie said. And also, our next episode, we will be having a guest interviewer, which is very exciting. Another member of the Pom Pom team, Belinda, it has done a wonderful interview for us, and we'll bring her on as well to talk a little bit pre-interview chat. So we look forward to bringing you that very soon, and to answering all of your questions about anything.
Yeah. A final thank you to Yak, who are our sponsors for this episode. Don't forget you can get 10% off their website, which is yarnandknitting.com. Just enter the code YAKPOMCAST at the checkout and you get 10% off. How great is that?
That is pretty great.
Pretty great. So take care until then, and we'll see you next episode.
Bye!
Bye! Pomcast is produced by Lydia Gluck and Sophie Heathscott, along with the team at Pom Pom Magazine. You can buy your copy of the magazine and subscribe too at our online shop, pompommag.com/shop.
Big thanks, as always, to Eli Block for creating the original music for this show and for being an essential part in creating this podcast. And thanks to Portmanteau Music for the tracks we used in this episode.
Thanks as always to Megan Fernandez, co-creator and editor of Pom Pom Quarterly, and thanks to the whole Pom Pom team. You know who you are.
If you enjoyed this podcast, which you must have done because you're still listening right to the end, please subscribe, and why not leave a review? And if you do leave us a review, we will give you a shout out on this podcast. So very excited. You can send any feedback or ideas to podcast@pompommag.com, and your questions, of course, for our Ask Us Anything. And don't forget to keep in touch with us via the podcast group on the Pom Pom Ravelry forum.